Thanks for letting me know you can hear me. So we are 8 o'clock, and this is the first time I'm doing a live for reading, for therapy. I've been doing live for readings on Facebook for a couple of months. I'm going to be doing a live on readings on Saturday night on YouTube, 8 o'clock. That'll be coming up later, posted on my channel. But for tonight, we're focusing on therapy. So, as you guys probably know, I'm a professional clinical hypnotherapist, and I specialise with anxiety and depression and PTSD and sexual trauma and childhood trauma and all sorts of other things. But I also do your kind of bog standard stuff, you know, sleep deprivation, insomnia, and frustrations and angers and road rage and you name it, anything else. I've got quite a heavy cold. I was umming and ahhing about doing tonight, but I thought, nope. You know, I've said I'm going to do it. I've dosed up with Lemsip. I'm going to be fine. I wouldn't be able to do a reading with my head this fudgy, but I can certainly do therapy. So give me some questions. How was Christmas? Did you survive without killing anybody, without snapping and snarling at difficult people? Or did you spend Christmas alone and were very lonely? How was it? How did you cope? Was it a good one? Was it difficult? Was it challenging? And how have you coped the last few days? Because we've got some very, very difficult energy going on at the moment. We've got a lot of people with illnesses. We've got a lot of people getting very emotional. We had a huge, massive new moon on the 1st of January, and we're still feeling the energy of that, and that's bringing up all sorts of emotions to the surface because that's what moons do. And so things that we're hiding, things that we're suppressing, come up, whoosh, and we can feel really overwhelmed with it. I've been working with clients today and yesterday, and everybody's saying the same thing. I'm really struggling at the moment. You can't sleep, right? Okay. So full moons are notorious for that. We get over hot, we're overheated, we can't sleep properly, and that affects most people with sleep. But is it something, Kimberly, that you have problems with sleep normally? Is this an issue for you normally? Are you somebody who suffers with poor sleep? Because I can give you some tips on how to help yourself sleep. Oh, Milky Way, you were sick with flu in bed on Christmas Day. Oh, bless. Oh, what a Christmas. That's not good. That's not good. I had respite. You're tense emotions and tired. Okay, so Sandra's struggling with it as well. Okay. So, yeah, loads. There's so much flu and colds and sickness bugs about at the moment. Hello, Natalie. Hello, darling. All right. So, yeah, lots of people I've never seen. I put a post on Facebook earlier saying I have never seen in all the years I've been on Facebook since the beginning in 2004, where I've never seen so many people posting how ill they are. Everybody's ill. Me too. In the last 3 weeks, I've had 2 colds, laryngitis, and I've got an ulcer in my eye. I had to go to the eye hospital. Well, what's going on? I'm normally really, really healthy. So I kind of went inside and said, what's going on? So there is a lot of shifting energy at the moment, and it's clearing stuff out. Generally, anything to do with head colds is who's got up your nose, who's annoyed you. And there was somebody that annoyed me, and I had to kind of work through that and get rid of that. But usually when our body goes into illness, it's because there is discourse within us. There's tension within us. There's unresolved issues within us. If we are in a really strong place and we're aligned, we feel great. Michelle, I feel great. One of the few do. Woohoo! We have somebody who's well. That's fantastic. So welcome. Hi, Michelle. So tonight we're going to do an hour. If we go on a bit more, we'll see how we go. Chemtrail flu, nasty, nasty. That's going to take you a couple of weeks to get over, Milky Way. So make sure that you get plenty of rest. Kimberly's had an eye problem as well. Okay. Usually, I mean, this is what I've been asking myself. Eyes are, what aren't we seeing? Or what are we seeing that we don't want to see? So it's a really signal for the body to go into yourself and say, right, what aren't I looking at that I should be looking at? Or what am I, what am I avoiding? And it's this energy that's around at the moment is really trying to get us to face to be our authentic self, so whatever is hiding inside is trying to make its way out. And when we're not really acknowledging it on a subconscious level, we can only fix what we're aware of. So yeah, it's when we're fixing that stuff that we're aware of, happy days, but what happens when we're not aware of it? So what our body does is it kind of helps to show us what's going on. You get a problem in your neck, in your shoulders, they're all meaning different things. Eye muscle twitches, anything to do with the eyes is about what aren't you seeing. So eye muscle twitches are going to be when the eye is sort of twitching and twitching and twitching, it's trying to say, notice me, notice me, notice me. And so that's what you're going to need to do, is go inside. What would it mean if you have a chronic condition relating to breathing you mean, or breathing, I think you mean, rather than breeding. If you mean breeding, if you mean, you know, being able to have babies and things like that, then yeah, let me know, because they mean different things. Yeah, it does make, this is Louise Hay stuff from Hay House. You know, Louise Hay wrote books years ago. I was reading these books in the 80s about your body is trying to tell you when you have an illness, what's actually going on psychologically and emotionally. And then it comes up and out. Now, I'm somebody who's normally very ill. People can be very well. People could be ill around me and I don't get it. So when our immune system starts to collapse and we start picking up everything and catching everything, that's when we've got to look at what's going on inside. And we've got to look at the psychological stuff. Where's the stress? Because it's stress that puts the body into discourse. So we're not at ease, we're in dis-ease. So we start to get ill. Oh, COPD, yeah, okay. So this is anything to do with the lungs. Breathing is, right, where is my suppression? Where am I being suppressed? You know, think about anything to do with asthma, COPD, bronchitis, stuff like this. We are usually feeling controlled, bullied, not free to speak up, not free to be ourselves, whether that's a person that's controlling us or whether it's old conditioning from childhood. You know, got to be a good girl or a good boy, please everybody, be a people pleaser rather than following your authentic self. So this is about you releasing and letting go of that suppression. Actually, both. I could not have kids either. Oh, bless you, darling. Okay. So when we can't have children, this is, you know, this is very often the soul has chosen this on a higher plane, that we haven't come here to reproduce. We've come here for ourselves, to continue our learning and to support and help other people. Kimberly's saying she's very sensitive around the full moon. We all are, okay? Everybody is. Most people don't really understand it. So just to let you know a little bit about the full moon then, as we're talking about that. So some of you will know this stuff, some of you might not, so I'll just give you the basics, okay? But all the planets in our solar system, they all have their own energy, and the energy will influence us. And the moon obviously isn't a planet, but it's our moon on our planet, and the moon controls the tides. And we know the oceans, you know, rise and fall with the full moon and the waning moon. So the moon controls the oceans on our planet, and our planet is 71% water. And if the moon can make all of that water rise and fall, then it can, imagine what it can do to us, because we are also, as human beings, 71% water. Now, our emotions are transmitted and moved around through the body through water. So what happens is when the moon is full, think about the oceans and the tides becoming high, your emotions become high. They're not new emotions, they are the emotions that you already have, but normally they're on a low tide, they're down there somewhere, and we don't really notice them. When the moon is full, it all comes whooshing up, all our sensitivities, all of our emotions start coming up. So that's what happens with full moon. It'll affect our sleep, it'll make us more sensitive, more emotional, and we've known about this for several hundred years. You know, when they created Bedlam, which is the mental hospital in London that was created in the 1800s, where they put, at the time, all the insane people, most of them weren't insane, but they were by the time they'd been there a while, but they noticed as well that around the full moon, all the mad people would get madder. And it's not just, you know, it's not just people who are mentally ill, but it's all of us, all right? If you're holding a lot of anger inside of you, you'll struggle to keep that anger down around a full moon. You'll be snapping and snarling and reactive and grumpy. If you are sensitive and upset about things that you normally can bottle down, you know, keep it down, you'll start getting upset over anything. You're watching something on the telly, on the news, and you'll start getting all tearful and thinking, what's the matter with me? It's the full moon. Okay, so the way to deal with this is that you allow these emotions to come up and come out, and then the next full moon there's nowhere near as much there. Okay, let's look at what you're all saying here. Okay, breeding is a problem chronologically. Yeah. Well, yeah, it kind of, the buck stops with you, doesn't it, when there's no more generations coming down. You made peace with that. Thanks a lot. This helped. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, Colleen, it is the moon. Kimberly's got ringing in her left ear. Okay. Yeah, ringing in your left ear is a couple of different things. Normally anything to do with the ear is the same sort of thing as the eyes. What aren't I hearing? What don't I want to hear? And when we're holding old traumas in the body from old stuff, it will manifest in the ears. So let me just explain that. I explain that quite a lot in my book, Moving Past the Past, the way our body holds this stuff. When we go through trauma, whether it's in childhood or whether it's from a destructive relationship, you know, a toxic relationship, you're screaming and shouting at each other, banging doors. As people, as human beings, we are quite sensitive. We don't like a lot of angry noise. You know, this is why we recoil from it. So, excuse me. So I had, in my childhood, a lot of screaming and shouting around me and at me. And my ears were always ringing from my mother screaming and also hitting me across the ear. I had a lot of ear problems and a lot of ENT problems, ears, nose and throat. When I released all the trauma from that, all of those areas cleared up. And until 2 weeks ago, I've not had a problem with my throat since. A couple of weeks ago, I got laryngitis, and that was, again, something I hadn't spoken up about, and my voice shut down. So I had to speak up about it. Within an hour, my voice came back. But our body will hold this sort of stuff. Colleen said, I don't feeling things before I know the feeling, and the moon is kicking my ass. I don't feel anything, so I know the feeling. Write that again, because that's not making quite sense, Colleen. Are you saying you know things before? Yeah, you're highly sensitive, highly intuitive. Is that what we mean? Your psychic ability is on a peak in the full moon? Because it will be. Because all our psychic self comes up to the surface when we're very, very open and we're very, very relaxed and we feel safe. And so, of course, the full moon is bringing all of our emotions up to the surface and our sensitivity. So we become more highly tuned, more highly aware of other people's energy, of our own energy, and of planetary energies. Okay. Now then, let me just have a look. See somebody. Oh, Colleen, bless you. Thank you for the donation, sweetheart. So let's have your question, hon. What did you want to know? So you're talking here about your psychic ability, your intuition. Is that what you mean, Colleen? Let me know. Give me a little bit more info and we'll see if I can help you understand it a bit better. And in the meantime, Kimberly's ringing in the left ear. So there's two things it can be. You need to look at your life better. Yeah, this is it. See, our body, we tend to think that when we're ill, our body's attacking us. My body hates me. You know, it's hurting me. I'm always in pain. Actually, your body's in pain too. It's not trying to attack you. It's trying to help you by showing you what you're holding. So let's imagine that each time that you were shouted at, your body is holding a bit of trauma from that. You know, imagine like a little child, or even as an adult, when your partner is getting nasty and abusive and shouting at you, we recoil, and our body's actually holding a little block of energetic trauma, a little block of energy emotion called fear or upset or hurt or right. So let's imagine that that little block of trauma is being held in the ears where you were shouted at, and we get earache. And that's our body's way of saying, we've got stuff there we need to release. So what we do, well, hello, darling. Hi, Indigo. Oh, bless you. Julie's amazing and truly has a gift to offer the world. I've had 2 private sessions with her so far and I've had a lot of deep healing. Oh, thank you. That's lovely. Thank you. So with the ears, let's imagine that little bit of trauma is blocked in the ear and you keep getting earache. And every time you get poorly, you get an earache. And then you say, I'm always getting an earache. Okay. is what we need to do is go into the trauma that caused it in the first place. It's nothing to do with the physical pain. We go to the emotional pain, which was when my partner shouted at me, or when my mother did this, or when my father did that, and we release it. We neutralize it. We make it completely aligned with it's gone, it's released, it's finished. And what happens then, the cellular structure in the ear can begin to heal. Okay, it's not an overnight thing. So if you imagine that trauma is stuck there, and it's toxic. Trauma is toxic. It's not very nice for the body to be holding that, and it affects the cellular structure around it. So you can imagine on an energy level, the inner ear is bruised. As that toxicity comes away, now the cellular structure can start to heal. And our body is never more than 2 years old. Every single cell in our body has been completely replaced within 2 years. So our skin is replaced every 3 weeks. The upper layer, we've got several layers of skin. I think there are 3. So in 9 weeks, we've got a completely new skin. Okay, so why do we continue to get psoriasis or skin problems, right? Because it's a new skin. And it's because the trauma is still there and it's being handed down to the cells underneath it. So when the trauma is released, as the new skin comes, it's born clean and fresh, and then you will heal. And it's the same with what's going on with your ears. Now, the other reason that we can have ringing in the ears is actually a psychic sign. It's one of the signs that spirit uses. I don't work with spirit. I don't work with dead people, if you like, okay? They're there. I'm aware of them. I work with the angels and I work with God, but I don't tend to talk to somebody's dead grandmother. That's just not the way I work. But they are all around, and very often when they're trying to get your attention, they can do this kind of ringing in your ears. I have heard people saying angels do it sometimes, but generally it's higher level vibration. Another time it can happen, I know I'm waffling, but I want to answer the question. Another time it can happen is when we have a new download. Now, do you know what I'm talking about with a new download? We're evolving all the time spiritually. I know you are, Kimberly. I can feel it. I can sense it. You need to trust it a bit more, though, sweetheart. Okay? Develop it a bit more. You don't need to go to anybody for that. You need to meditate and be going into it and be testing yourself. Colleen's saying, I don't have a question, just excited for insight and finding a group of people who make it feel less crazy. Bless, do you know you're the second person who said that to me today? Somebody else said to me, and you're the only person who would understand what I'm talking about without locking me up and thinking I'm nuts. And I'm like, honestly, there are millions of us. You are not alone. There are millions of us. I've been on this journey since the 70s. Now, there were not people around in those days. I was called weird. They used to say that they should lock me up. You know, when I talked about angels and my guides and the people I could see and talk to and I could see energy, they thought I was completely weird. Very rare was it back then, but it's becoming more and more prolific. And actually I'm on Facebook and I belong to so many groups, and in these groups there are up to 100,000 people, light workers of the world. I think there are 120,000 people on that page, and they're all spiritually conscious. There are, and that's just one group. It says loads, so don't think you're going nuts. You're not going nuts, okay? Think about a child. When we first come into this realm, this earthly existence, we are incredibly spiritual. As we evolve and grow up, that begins to close down for most of us. For most people, that spiritual connection begins to go. But if you look at children, 2 or 3 years old, they're incredibly psychic. So, you know, it's just that now that as we're evolving into this higher dimension now, which is what's happening with the planetary shifts, that we are starting to become more and more open to who we truly are. All right, we are human, but we are spirit, we are soul, we are energy inhabiting a human body. And we're not just the human body, and we're not just the subconscious and the personality and the characteristics. We are all of it, okay? And it's all equally important, you know. And also what happens is it goes the other way. I know lots of spiritual people who don't really care about the earthly stuff. They spend most of their time in meditation or on higher planes and constantly looking for development. But we need to honour and value the body we're in, the space we're in, the earth we're on, and that material and physical and bodily things are extremely important. Sandra's saying, feel heavy weight and ache in my heart space. Oh, that is not good. We want to get rid of that. Okay, let's just tune into it then, Sandra. Let's see if we can do a little bit of healing and clearing. So, excuse me, I've still got cold. Look at the red nose. You want to see how much makeup I've got on to cover this? It's coming off every time I blow my nose. All right, come on, let's shift this. Okay, and if any of you want to jump in on this, you feel free. Okay, so put your hand on your heart. All right, I want you to come into your heart energy. This is your love, your source, your soul, your power, your heart, your emotional heart. This is all of who you are. Now, if you're feeling a space or a heaviness or a block, this is your heart wanting to expand. Imagine your heart. It is, Colleen. I'll come back to that in a minute. Imagine your heart as a flower that's half open. Okay, now your heart is wanting to open fully, to completely open as full as it can, to get all of the light that it can get, which is the love and light. Okay, so just imagine that it's trying to open up, and sometimes in our heart we have hurt, we have pain, and that's heavy. All the negative emotions are heavy, all the positive emotions are light as a feather. So as you open your heart, if it feels heavy, just imagine that weight as your old hurts turning into butterflies or moths or bats, I don't care what, and see them flying up and away. It's your intention to release them, that you're saying to yourself, I am ready. I am ready to release this and open up and allow more love in. Okay, we need to, absolutely, Indigo, to embody the cosmic energies coming in. We need to release the stored emotions, because these emotions, see, we don't store happy emotions, positive emotions, okay? They move through us. Let me explain, all right? This is where I work with my clients. Let's imagine a 2-year-old child that feels everything in the moment. They'll go through a dozen different emotions in the space of 10 minutes. 1 minute, they're laughing their head off. The next minute, they're screaming the place down, angry about something. And then 2 minutes later, they're off playing. They don't store anything. The emotion is generated in your belly. It moves up and it moves out of your mouth. You express it. And when we're upset, it comes out of your eyes in tears. It comes out of your mouth as sound. We're expressing it. We're freeing it. This is emotion, okay? This is what we do. Now, for a 2-year-old, they don't discern, they don't judge between good emotion and bad emotion. They just feel what they feel, and up it comes, okay? Now, it's only us as adults start to teach the child, hi, Luna, we start to teach the child at quite a young age that negative emotions are bad and positive emotions are good. And we tell the child off when they're displaying anger or when they're crying or when they're having a tantrum. And the child very quickly learns that this is not okay. So they still will feel the emotions, but they've learned that the good ones are allowed to come up and come out, and the bad ones push down, okay, and get locked in there. All right. So this is what happens. By the time we get into our 20s, even if we've had quite a reasonable childhood, we'll have quite a lot of stored emotions there in the belly. And the way I imagine it is, imagine like a balloon that you can blow up a balloon bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, it's kind of, that's what I imagine in the belly. And these negative emotions go in the balloon, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And negative emotions are heavy. So it feels heavier and heavier, and it begins to weigh us down until it gets to the point where that ball, that balloon is so big that, and it's only filled with bad stuff, negative emotions, that we can't feel the joy anymore. And what's going on at the moment, and it's been happening, we've had big shifts in 99, we had another big shift in 2012, we've got another one going on at the moment, that there's higher level energies coming up that is saying, we want you, you know, you are divinity, you are source soul personified within this body, and you have a divine right to be at peace and to be prosperous and successful and joyful and abundant and all beautiful, wonderful things that we associate with winning the lottery or heaven, but that's our divine right. But these emotions, these blocked emotions, and these old negative beliefs, these programs of behavior, how we should behave, and all this judgment, they hold us back, they hold us down, and we can't get into that joy. So these energies that are coming down cosmically, all right, so that massive full moon we had on Monday and Tuesday, we've got a massive new moon coming in on the 16th, 17th, bringing in huge new energy. And then at the end of the month, around the 31st, we've got another full moon that's a lunar eclipse, which is going to bring a whole load more stuff up to the surface. So what it feels, hi Kelly, what it feels is very disruptive. It's like, you know, you're bouncing off the walls, you don't feel very stable, you're ill, or you're moody, or you're this or you're that, and you're thinking, I wasn't like this a few months ago, what's going on? And it's all right. Know that all of this stuff is there to support you and help you. What it's doing is bringing up all that crap to the surface to get rid of it, so that we can come up into that place where we feel lighter and stronger and more empowered. And we start to align. And alignment is about vibration, all right? Everything is vibration. We begin to align on a vibration of abundance and peace and prosperity and health and well-being. And we can't align while this stuff is in the way. We're moving further into that alignment, but it needs to go. So this is our opportunity to get rid of it. And it's uncomfortable. You know, you ask any of my clients who work with me, I make most of them cry. And I say to people, I make people cry for a living. Don't worry about it. Always have tissues when you're working with me, because I want that stuff up and out, but safely and gently. And afterwards, you will feel lighter and brighter and stronger and knackered, exhausted, because it's hard work, but it's worth it. Okay. All right, let's have a look what else we've got. Let me see. Indigo saying, I had to go through my own fear as well. Yeah, love is what we are. Fear is what we learn. You're absolutely right. You see any 1-year-old that's frightened, they're not frightened of anything. We are programmed since birth and have to unlearn most everything we have learned in this realm. This is absolutely correct, okay? And the different cultures, I'm just picking up on Aluna's comment there about predisposition to cultural programming. Absolutely. I've just finished a degree in sociology, all about cultural stuff and psychology and stuff like this. There's the culture we're born into, and not just in terms of countries and religions, but in terms of how our parents, our caregivers, bring us up with their values. We absorb like a sponge their values, and we don't begin to question until we're about 12. Psychologically is when we start to develop our own sense of thinking. Until then, we're like little sponges. We just believe what we're told. And so they're not our beliefs. There are parents, there are schools, there are churches, there are societies. And so what's happening at the moment on the planet has been happening for about the last 20 years globally, is that the people globally, the collective consciousness is raising itself to say, who am I? Is this right? Is this fair? Should this be happening? I don't think this is right. Questioning, questioning, questioning. And what we're doing is we're starting to dismantle those old beliefs and saying, that part of this came down from Victorian society, and you know, it's been moving through, but it's still got ways to go, and we need to push it along a little bit further. But what we want to do is embrace it and know that the universe is supporting us. So when we're feeling like, I've had 3 weeks of feeling pretty rubbish health-wise, which is not like me, I'm very aware, right, what's going on? What are you trying to clear out in me? Let's focus on that then and spend more time in meditation and more time trying to get to the root of where's the discourse in my body. Otherwise I wouldn't have picked up these colds. So, you know, it's kind of, right, we just have to own it. Without being scared, don't be scared of it, just own it and say, this is doing me a massive favour. Let's imagine I've had some toxic trauma still locked in me from when I was 6 that I didn't know about. This is an opportunity to get it out, and that's good, isn't it? That's what we want, all right? And if it's a bit uncomfortable getting it out, the way I describe it, my daughter, she's 20, she's been brought up with me with all of this stuff because I've been into this since I was about 17. I was aware of spirit, and I was aware of lights and energies and colours and everything else from the time I was about 7, but I really became open to the spiritual side of it when I was about 17. So, you know, she's known nothing else, you know. And I remember her coming to me when she was about 6, and she said, "I feel sick," and I said, "Oh, that's good. Go." And, you know, she said, "I'd been sick," and I said, "Oh, that's great." And she went, "No, it's not. It's horrible." And I said, "No, it's good, because there's bad, nasty germs in your belly, and now that you've been sick, you've got rid of all the germs. Now your belly can get better." And I gave her a cuddle and helped her to understand that being sick, as much as it was horrible, we all hate vomiting, but now she could start to get better because the germs were out. And it's a little bit like that, the way I work emotionally, that those emotions are in there and they're locked in there, and the psychological belief systems and program is in there, and it's all affecting your behavior and your thinking and your reactions. You know, you can react and you can respond, and they're two different things. A response is something we can consider, we can think about, we can choose, we can decide. We don't choose with reaction, we just react. We didn't choose that reaction. Yeah, it just happens. And that's because there's something that's been triggered. Let me look at some of the comments now. You're welcome, Colleen. Michelle saying, "What's the reason for losing your voice and so many colds? My friend is going through that too." Okay, so colds, Michelle, is generally who's got on your nerves, who's got up your nose, all right? Because colds are head colds. It's all about the nose and the sinuses, isn't it? So who's got up your nose? Who's annoyed you and you haven't dealt with it? You've brushed it under the carpet. We do this. I tend to do it quite a lot because I don't like confrontation. And I'm quite a forgiving person, and I'm quite compassionate. And so if somebody's out of order, I'll usually say, "I find that behaviour not okay." And I won't say much more than that. I let it go. And that's what I tend to do. And obviously a couple of days later, well, actually within an hour, my voice went. And I just thought, well, I've got a bug, it'll go in 2 days. And it hadn't gone by the 4th day. So I had to really go into my throat and went, right, okay, clearly this has bothered me more than I was aware of on a conscious level. But obviously down in me, it bothered me much more. And I had to dive into it. And I realized that it was linked to some other incidents, or no, incidents is not the right word, but some other things that had gone on where I also hadn't said anything, and I had to go and speak to that person and say what I needed to say. Within an hour, my voice was back. So the voice going is unspoken stuff, and as I said, I wasn't aware of it consciously that it had bothered me, but subconsciously it clearly had. So yeah, and this is what happens is when we get wound up inside or we get stressed inside, our body goes out of balance. It goes out of alignment. Now, stress is the only reason we get ill. All right, it truly is. We've got the body is in stress. It's not in alignment with ease. It's in dis-ease. And so what happens is our immune system gets compromised, and then we start picking up everything. What we can also do, and certainly what I did, and I warned people on my, I don't know if you saw my weekly messages for the 25th of December. The message for that week is don't forget about you during Christmas. Yeah, that we're here, you know, to look after our family and make it all lovely, but don't forget about you, or you'll get to the end of Christmas exhausted. Make sure you ask for help. Make sure that you think about you too. And now I said that, it was my message, well, it was the cards I had. And by the end of Christmas, I had visitor after visitor after visitor for 10 days. And by the end of it, I was exhausted and I was ill again. And I hadn't asked for help. And I was like, no, I'll do it. You know, I don't see you very often. I'll look after you. Yeah. So physician, heal thyself, listen to your own messages, okay? So, yeah, this is why the sorts of things that we will get ill, okay? So let's have a look at some of these comments. Let me make sure I've covered, because I can't read them while I'm talking, sorry, okay? Colleen, we're having a spiritual crisis, Indigo says, okay. Yeah, it is a kind of spiritual crisis, but I wouldn't put it like that, because I think it's a spiritual shift, and it's creating, if you like, the crisis within the body, going, oh my God, you know, this has got to come up. What's going on here? What's going on there? We're reacting and we're triggering and we're, you know, right. So if you like, yeah, it's a kind of crisis in the body to enable this stuff to come out, but it's good stuff. We don't want to get into the fear mongering because fear will make it worse. All right. What's trying to come out is basically fear-based emotions. And if we start adding new fear into it, it's going to make it even harder to get it out. We want to put love into it and say, no, this is good for me. Like I was saying to my daughter when she was sick, oh, that's great. That's great. Because now you can start getting better. Okay. So let's see. Colleen saying I'm still new at this. Oh, bless you. Grew up a strict Irish Catholic. That means you've got a degree in guilt. Bless. Okay, so that's one of your emotions you're going to need to get rid of is guilt. Yeah, you're growing spiritually. It's about, rather than thinking of anything like, the different churches or the different religions, it's about saying, look, we're spiritually conscious, which means that we're awake. We've got the conscious and the subconscious. Conscious is stuff I'm aware of. Subconscious is stuff I'm not aware of. So when I'm spiritually conscious, I'm aware of my own spirituality. I'm aware of my own soul, my own energy. I'm aware of the universe and source. I'm aware of other people. I'm aware of vibrations and atmospheres and energies, and I'm aware. I'm spiritually conscious. And what we want to do is raise that awareness. So we're learning more. When I first got into this when I was 17, back in, I don't know, when was that? 1979 or something. I started reading books, and at the time, really, the only books were spiritualism books like mediumship, Dorothy Stokes, and things like that. There wasn't much about. But as we came into the 80s, we started seeing some really good stuff coming forward, and I was reading loads, okay, and it really helped my own understanding. These days, you don't need to do that. Just go to YouTube. There's people like me. There's lots of people like me, and there are people better than me, and there are people who are nowhere near my awareness. It's not a competition of who's going to get there first. It's about going to the person that you feel most drawn to. Okay, so if you feel drawn to me, then for now there is something that you can learn from me. When you start getting bored with me, which is okay, okay, and we do this, I would go to a certain teacher for several years, and I'm like, oh, they're amazing. I'm just learning so much. This is fantastic. And then after a while, I was like, and I thought, what's going on here? Because I still love this person. I'd reached their level. All right, so they weren't teaching me anything more. They'd done their job. They got me to where they were. So now I needed a different teacher on a higher level. So I went and found somebody else, and then the same thing happened. But that's a journey through 30 or 40 years. Yeah, my teachers now are Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and I listen to that. I still listen to Neil Donald Walsh, but it doesn't resonate like it did 10 years ago. So yeah, we find the people that resonate, and that helps our spiritual consciousness. So let's say Indigo saying I had to go through fear as well. Love is where we are. Yeah. Kimberly saying hello to Kelly. Yeah, it's just going within. Yeah, we can go within and we can go without, if you like. Okay. So Jesus said, for example, if we don't go within, we go without. And basically what he means by that is that we are missing that connection with our soul, and we can't be happy without it. But the soul is within us. The source consciousness, the God self, is within us. We are a spark of consciousness of the source energy, but there's also the source within the universe. So when I'm connecting, I connect within, but I also connect up. So if you like, outside of me, and I'm bringing that down, and I kind of bring it down at that angle so that I'm encompassing as much from up in the realms as I can. Okay, let's have a look what else it's saying. You're here. I know, you've got to learn to remember. What have you got to remember? Hang on, I missed a bit. Aluna's saying predisposed to cultural programs, especially children. The brainwave states programs subconsciously behave one way. The beliefs aren't even our own. This is one of the things you see with me as I'm a therapist, I'm a hypnotherapist. So although I'm working with energy and psychically and intuitively, the most important part of the hypnotherapy is reprogramming those beliefs. And the way I work, and that's something I'm going to be doing with my lady there who sees me. We haven't done that yet, is that we're going to go into the belief systems and reprogram them all. Your belief system basically like a computer, and they're really easy with hypnosis to change those beliefs. All right. The difficulty that most people have is they're trying to do it on a conscious level. You know, I don't want to believe that anymore, so I won't. Right? But that's, you're thinking it, you're aware of that consciously. The problem is your beliefs are not up here in the conscious level. They're deep, deep down inside you. You need to go down into the subconscious to find them, which is you do through either a very deep meditation or through hypnosis. That's the way I work. Okay, so we've talked about the voice and colds. Luna said, I just had a Christian flip out of a tarot card. Oh, yeah, bless. The amount of people who wanted to save my soul when I was 17 because I went from the church into spiritual stuff and tarot. And they were like, you know, and I was talking to guides and I was talking to dead people as was then, you know, spirits and stuff, which I don't work with anymore. I work on a higher level. But they were telling me that was the devil and they were going to save my soul and they wanted me to come back to the church. It's the thing is with Christianity, bless them, and all these kind of different religions, they're very fear-based, and that fear is being created in order to control, and that's not what the universe is about, and it's not what God is about. Otherwise, you know, universal law number one is free will. All right, that we have free will. So, you know, from God's perspective, there's no control. We make our own decisions, we choose. And so, you know, I'm quite anti-religion, not anti-religious people. I respect their faith, but you will get some people in different faiths who will tell you that by being spiritually conscious, it's evil, it's the devil's work. I look at what happened with Doreen Virtue this year, and it was like, oh my God, what's happened to that poor woman? I think she's had a bit of a midlife crisis, but hey ho, her path. But there we go. All right. So Colleen's saying, totally hit the nail on the head. I live for everyone else. Yeah. Okay. I don't even know me. Now, I'm normally really good with that. I'm really good with boundaries. But my children live, one lives near, the other two live quite considerable time away. And they travelled down. And then straight after that was New Year. My friend came down and we went out. And it was just visitor after visitor and kind of lots going on. And yeah. So it's about really saying, where am I in this? Don't lose yourself in this, okay? So let me see. Kelly's saying we do graduate to different people with different techniques. Yeah, we do. And that's the way it should be, okay? The conscious mind does need to step aside. A lot of people call the conscious mind the ego. And the ego sounds very flashy and very arrogant and very fear-based and everything else. It's actually not. The ego is there to actually protect you. It's the kind of overprotective, overbearing parent going, you know, don't do that, you might fall. Oh, don't do that. It's always trying to hold you back. And, you know, it's kind of your voice of overbearing reason, and we need to kind of say thanks very much, but I've got this, it's okay. It's like, you know, if it's raining and a parent says don't go out because you'll catch a cold, and you say, well, it's all right, I got a coat and I got a brolly, I'll be fine. We need to control the ego, but without battering it into submission, okay? To just say, well, thanks for that, but no, this is what I want to do. But it's in the subconscious that we can access the real us, okay? And in our heart, all right? It's in the heart. Now then, see what else is saying. Okay, Kelly's agreeing. Okay, have I covered everybody's points? What else do you want to know? Talk to me, ask questions. I don't say I've got all the answers. And by the way, this is only my truth, okay? My truth has been based on everything I've learned from a very, very young age. I had an experience when I was 7. And it was a very traumatic experience, and through that traumatic experience I left my body, and I was sitting with a very lovely man who was talking to me. I was high up on a tree. All right, now this is where it all sounds very potty, but bear with me, I was 7. I was sitting on a tree branch, and he was saying to me to look at the birds and look at the sun and look at the horizon, and he had the kindest eyes, and he was just the most beautiful man, and we were talking, and it was lovely, and I don't know how long we were there for, but it seemed a long time. Yes, I do, Aluna. I feel all the energy, psychological energy, emotional energy, physical energy. I go into your cellular structure. I don't know, Don, I'm not doing readings today. I'm not doing readings. I'll be doing readings on Saturday, head permitting. Okay. I can't tune in today because my head cold is too, it blocks all the flow. Okay, what I'm telling you is from me, and I can do that because that's already there. When I work psychically, when I'm doing readings and scans, that's coming through from I connect to your soul. Okay, I'm connecting to your body and your soul, and I'm feeding through your energy through me, and I'm so blocked with this cold that it won't get through. That's why I've not done any readings this week, because they wouldn't be good enough. Okay, so anyway, yeah, let me finish this story. So I'm up on this tree branch talking to this chap for some time, and I decide he's my new best friend, and he told me he was, and I asked him what his name was, and he said his name was Jesus. And I was like, well, lovely to meet you. And then when this trauma that I was in the middle of was over, I was back in my body. And I asked him where he lived, and he said he lived everywhere. But I felt very, very drawn from that point to go to church. I wanted to go and see my pal. So off I went. I took myself off to church because my mother would be passed out in bed, hungover from the night before. And I just went off to church, stole some money out of her purse of the collection, and went and sat in the front pew looking up at Jesus on the cross and chatting away to him and having a lovely chat. And I carried on doing that for some time. And when the vicar was, it was a Baptist church, and when the vicar was talking about some things about God, I kind of put my hand up and say, no, that's not right. That's not right. I'm correcting the vicar. But yeah, from that point forward, I always had a very strong relationship with both Jesus and God. And from that point forward, I could see energies and colours and moods and risks and danger and all sorts of things. I was just very, very aware. I didn't understand any of it. And for about, I'd say best part of 10 years, it frightened me stupid. Because it's scary stuff when you can see stuff that other people can't see and know stuff that other people are not aware of. And so I started reading to help me to try and understand. And as I read more and more and more and understood more and more, the fear started to go. And by the time I was 17, the fear had gone. And then I just continued to grow. So, as I say, I'm 54 now, and so I've been doing this a long time, and I continue to learn and continue to grow for all this time. Became a therapist 17 years ago, and when I'm connecting with somebody under hypnosis, I go down with them, and I can really go into their energy and feel stuff and really be able to heal and help them. And I know stuff that they don't know, they're not aware of on a conscious level. So I might be in the middle of a session and I'll be saying, you know, tell me about when you were 14, and they'd be like, what? What? All right, no, there's something that happened there when you were 14 and it's caused a blockage and we need to clear it. And I would just ask their memory to bring the memory forward, and all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, that was the year that my dad left, you know, and that was the year. So, right, so this is the sort of thing that happens. And then I'm very blessed, because this is why I'm so good at what I do, because I have all this extra insight. I have this extra inside knowledge. It's like insider trading. But I don't care. If it does the job and helps people heal, then spot on. Let's do it. Okay. So that's what we do. So, yeah, this was supposed to be therapy questions. We've ended up with spiritual questions. It's absolutely fine. I do both. I taught spiritual development for about 15 years. I used to stand on stage and do seminars to 150 people and talk about different things like divinity. Yeah, I do past life regression too. Do I find it helpful? Yes and no. So I used to do past life regression for anybody who asked it. And I found 50% of the time it wasn't helpful, and I basically stopped doing it. I'll only do it if I feel it's going to benefit you. So the times that it's benefited, oh yeah, no, I do all of my work distance. I do it all on Skype or FaceTime or Facebook Messenger video. It's good for us to see each other, but we don't have to, because I also have clients, we just use the telephone. So that's fine too. So yeah, that's how I do my work. So past life regression, let's just talk about that for a moment. We have had many lives as men and women, on different planets, in different cultures, at different times, hundreds of lives, sometimes thousands of lives. And sometimes we're holding trauma from a previous life that we have brought into this life. Now, that actually normally happens, because what happens, you know, I was talking about the resonance and the vibration and what we're aligned with. So if we've had a previous life of abuse and we die with that unresolved, we're still holding the abuse, we can go into the next life with that resonance of abuse to have a chance to heal it and clear it. And we may find that we then are victims of abuse all over again. So it can be useful doing past life stuff to go back and find the cause and clear all of that. But the way I work with my clients, we don't usually need to. We clear it in this lifetime. And then what I do is I say, I'm clearing this across all space, time and dimensions. And I visually imagine that going back across all time through all of the lifetimes and it being neutralized through them all. And then all of the abuse stops from that point forward for the rest of their life and for subsequent lives to come. Where it has been useful is for people who are just beginning to open up spiritually, but they don't know if they quite believe it. And they need a bit of evidence. They need to, you know, why am I like the way I am? I don't understand. And, you know, so to do a past life regression can help them when I take them back to previous life and they can see that they've lived before, that it is the same soul, that they've met some of the same people before in other lifetimes that they're with now. And then, you know, it just helps a broader understanding. So it can help with healing and it can help with a broader understanding. But the thing is, with past life regression, there's so many people doing it who are not qualified. And that scares me. I would say probably 80% of the clients that I've had for past life regression have already had it with somebody else, and I've had to undo some of the damage that's been caused by that. So loads of mediums do past life regression because they can, but they don't necessarily have the therapy skills to then unpick what trauma they may find. You know, you take somebody back to a past life and they're just about, you know, they died in a murder, or, you know, they've lost their husband and their children are starving, and there's all of that trauma, and they have no idea how to manage that, or, you know, so they've just brought that awareness to somebody and then left it with them. And that's not okay. You bring the awareness and then you make sure that you've helped them to understand it and neutralize it and be okay with it before you finish the session. Okay. Oh, thank you, Aluna. No problem. All my details are already in the description, but you probably, I don't think the description will be up now. You know, this is all new to me live on YouTube. I'm an expert on Facebook. On the YouTube one that we're doing tonight, I put quite a big piece of information into the description. So it's got all my qualifications and who I am and my website and what we're doing tonight, obviously. I've also put links in there that you might find helpful. I am affiliated with those links, which means I do get a small commission if you did buy any of that stuff. That just helps support my channel. But there are some various links in there that you might find useful. So, for example, my book is in there, and when I'm doing the live readings, the links to my spiritual books are in there. I've got 4 books. One is a self-help book, and it's specifically aimed at sexual abuse, particularly childhood sexual abuse, for anybody who's had sexual abuse, or indeed, to be honest, any of the other abuses, of which there are many, would benefit from that. But my 3 angel books are rom-coms. They're fiction, and they are. There's a huge amount of spiritual teaching through those books. I started writing those, well, the first one in 2011, and I had several classes running at the time, spiritual development classes. And I started writing this book, and I was told to put all of the teaching in through the story. So that's what I did. And then there was a second book a couple of years later, and then a third book the year after that. So those 3 books, it follows the same family, and called Sarah, and she's got an angel that she can see, and her angel is kind of teaching her. But there's also romance in there, there's comedy in there, there's sad bits in there, there's all sorts of universal teachings and stuff. I'm tell you all about the different planets and the moons and the power of those and how you connect and how you protect yourself and how energy works. But it's all weaved through the story. So those are there, the links are there if you're interested. If you're not, that's absolutely fine. But I've put them all in there. So when we finish this live, it takes a little while, I think about 10-15 minutes for YouTube to upload it, and then you'll see everything is there for you. And if there's anything else that you want to know, please feel free to ask. You know, on my channel, I've got 62 videos at the moment, and I'm absolutely happy for people to post comments about, you know, can you tell us about this? You haven't covered that. I didn't understand what you meant about that. Anything like that's absolutely fine, because then I know what you need, and then I'll put together a video on those things. So Indigo's saying, I have a strong feeling that I have been a native healer in a past life. Also that I've either lost a daughter or a mother because of what's come up in this life. Okay, all right. So when we find ourselves triggered, you know what I mean by triggered. We're reacting quite negatively to something. And we know in a way we're overreacting, but we can't help it. That's when we look for why. Why am I getting so worked up about this? Why am I getting so angry about this? And the first place we'll look is this life. And that's what we should do, right? What, you know, is it my mother? Is it your mother? Is it, you know, why am I reacting like this? There's something here that's pressed a nerve, okay? But if we look everywhere in this life and we can't find it, that's when we then look in previous lives, and that's where it'll be. Okay, and that's when past life regression can be helpful. And very often you get that the same issue goes through several lifetimes and they're not concurrent. Okay, so you can jump a few lifetimes. You also get, I don't know if you ever heard this expression, it's called a resting lifetime. Do you know what that is? Give me some comments. Do you know what a resting lifetime is? And I can guarantee that none of you or me are in one. And Luna's saying it's scary to you. Okay. All right. What's scary to you, darling? All the spiritual stuff. Let me know what's scary. Let me know if you know what a resting lifetime is. Talk to me, people. Comment. How many have we still got live? Hang on, let's go up to see how many are here. Got to scroll up. Scrolling. There's loads and loads of comments on here, and they're scrolling up. Okay. How many have we got? I don't know. I can't find it. Oh well, never mind. Never mind. Okay. So, twin flames. Yeah, we can talk about that. Dolores Cannon spoke on the resting life. Okay, I don't know what she spoke about. Don't know who she is. But the resting life, in my understanding, is a life where we are not here to learn or to particularly give. It is a resting life where we can just have what I call a charmed life. All right. Do we know anybody that's had one of those charmed lives? All right. There's just been no drama. They've had nice parents. They've had a nice life. They've got enough money. They've got enough status to heal. No, that's not my understanding of a rest in life. It can be. Yeah, I suppose it can be. Yeah. Because all our different lifetimes, we're here to grow and learn. And we do that by challenges and by shifting up a notch and shifting up a notch. And, you know, that brings challenges and it brings all sorts of shifts. So when we have a resting life, it's like, oh, I'm just going to have a lovely, lovely life. Nothing to learn, no challenges, no yucky stuff. We're just going to have an easy, easy time. Yeah. It's just having a lovely time. But no, this is a life, a real life. A soul comes into a body and says, I'm just going to chill for this one. Okay. And then the other thing we can do is we can skip lives by saying, right, say we've got three left. I want to do it all in one, actually. Let's just get it over with. Let's cram it all into one life. And it's exhausting. All right. Now, many people who are spiritually conscious are on that path. Certainly for me, I'm doing 3 in 1 in this lifetime, which is pretty hard work, but it's all worth it. Okay. So twin flames, let's talk about twin flames, right? Like, yeah. Okay. So this is, a lot of people have talked about this for about the last 20-30 years, that we all have a twin flame, that we're only half a soul and our other half is out there somewhere. Now, many people will say you will never meet or very rarely meet your twin flame on this realm. Okay, they're up there helping us while we're down here, and then we're up there helping them while they're down here. I don't resonate with it. Okay, so I don't say it's wrong, I don't say it's rubbish. I say my truth is that I'm not half a soul, I'm not half anything, that there's not half of me missing. I think that my understanding psychologically will be that many of us feel this big gap, and somebody came up with the idea of twin souls, which they latched onto and said, well, that will be why I feel so lonely, or why I feel so alone, or why I feel so lost. And it's a psychological prop. For me, it doesn't feel my truth. Okay, but if you feel that it is, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. We're at different journeys. 15 years ago, I was working very strongly shamanically. Very much with the Native American energy and drums and rattles and all sorts of stuff like that. I don't resonate with any of that anymore. I'm working on a higher vibration, whereas the shamanic stuff is beautiful. It's very grounded, very earthy, very powerful. I needed to be in that for a space of about 7 years to help me step into my power, to help me become very grounded and very earthy. And once that was achieved, they kind of went, and I'm working with a different energy, which is a far higher vibration. And that's why I'm working with the angels, the angelic realms. But yeah, a resting life is really a life where you're not here to learn anything. So, you can look around at some of your friends, and I've certainly used the expression like they lead a charmed life. There's just never been any trauma, any drama, any chaos. Everything is easy, everything flows, So yeah, Kelly's with me. Yeah, I believe we're whole also. So I don't believe in the twin flame. What I do believe is that we're part of a soul group, that there's a soul group of about 12. It's usually 12, it can be more or less, but there's 12 of us, and we're at different planes, dimensions, different time zones, simultaneously, because there is only one now, and there are multiple dimensions in different time zones all happening now. So very often we can be very drawn to something that we have not experienced, but our soul is experiencing at this moment in a different dimension. So for example, you may feel that you want to be a ballerina, a ballet dancer, but you've never danced in your life. You've never been to a ballet lesson, but you would just have this lovely feeling of being a ballerina. Maybe one of your soul group is a ballerina, and you're picking up on her love of dance, but it's not your love, it's hers. But because you share the same vibration, it's like a bleed through. Okay, it's a bleed through. And so this information came from Patar, who's somebody I followed a lot through the 90s and through the noughties. Patar is a very high level being that's channeled through an Australian or Kiwi lady called Janie King. And he's got books and stuff, and they really resonate for me. Okay, he's a Palladian being, and talks about this bleed through that we have from our soul group, and also what they call our star brothers and sisters. So these are not human forms, they're in other multiverses, other dimensions, in other forms, but they're part of our soul group. And some of them are less developed than us, and some of them are more developed than us, and we kind of all helping each other up that development ladder. Okay, so let's see what else questions you've been asking. Yeah, that's right, Aluna. An easy life with no lessons or difficulties. You're spot on. Kelly says, I believe we're whole also. Okay, Indigo saying, what's past karma and numerology, and how accurate is it? Okay, so let's take numerology for a moment. We've got numerology, we've got astrology, and they are both extremely accurate. They come from a different vibration, but they are both very, very accurate. There's different forms of astrology. There's Vedic astrology and a kind of European astrology. But numerology is about numbers, okay? And the universe works on symbols and mathematics. So numerology and numbers is extremely accurate. So let's talk about the numerology for a moment. Then I'll say a little bit about the astrology, and I'll say a little bit about karma, okay? Colleen saying, lived lots of lives. Absolutely. Yeah, always, yeah, just sometimes we don't want to be here. And that's not nice. We can clear that because we want to enjoy this life. We want to be in joy during this lifetime, okay? So numerology is the study of numbers, and the numbers related to your birth date and your birth time. And so the way it works is you take your date of birth and you add all the numbers up together and you keep reducing them down until you've got one single digit. So by that, my birthday is the 9th of the 9th, 1963. So I would take the 9 and the 9, which is 18, and then I would take 1963, so a 1, which is 19, and then the 9, 28, and then the 6, and then the 3, and they come to 27, and then you add the 2 and the 7 together, and it comes to 9, okay? So actually it doesn't with me, I'm a 1. I added that up wrong, but that is your overall life path number. So I'm a 1, and the number 1s are leaders and teachers, and they are the forerunners. People follow their lead, if you like. Then there are other numbers within that, your day. Like I'm the 9th of the 9th, and 63, and 6 and 3 is 9, and then 4 9s are 27, and that comes back to 9. I've got a lot of 9s in my chart, 4 of them, and that's very top heavy. So the 9s are the compassionate healers, the therapists, the do-gooders, the people who are fighting for justice. All right, so I'm in the perfect job. I'm self-employed, I'm a leader, and I'm teaching spirituality and healing. Okay, so different numbers mean different things. I'm not an expert in numerology at all. I know the basics. Okay, so it's you can go on to, you can Google numerology, and there will be free sites that you can do your basic chart, and it'll tell you your life path and your destiny number and things like that. Okay, soulmates, yes, I believe in. Astrology is a similar thing. So we've got the 12 houses, and you can sort of say to yourself, well, how can it be the same message is accurate for a 12th of 7 billion people on this planet? It can't be. And you're absolutely right. It can't be. Okay. But when you take the time of birth and your place of birth, within, if possible, 5 minutes, okay, you can actually pinpoint where all those planets were over where you were in the world when you came out, when you were born. And that's called a birth chart, and that is extremely accurate. So when we get that kind of level, we can really look at the way that what is your destiny and what is your life path, and what are going to be your challenges, and what are going to be your difficulties, and what are going to be your blessings. So you're a really good astrology chart, a detailed astrology chart, which you will have to pay for with a good astrologer. I follow Kelly Rosano on YouTube. She's an excellent astrologer. There's a few of them that are. And then there's some very good numerologists there too. So they all say the same thing in different ways, okay? So it's about which one do you feel drawn to, okay? So you asked about soulmates. Soulmates are, yeah, we're in a soul group, all helping each other. And we kind of pass on knowledge to each other, so we're a bit of a team. And very often we are in our life at this moment with one of our soulmates. Sometimes more. My youngest son was my middle of my 3 children. He is one of my soul group, but my other 2 children are not. I've had lives with them before. I've had lives with all of my children before, but they're not necessarily part of my soul group. Just because you've had lives with somebody doesn't mean you're soulmates. And a soulmate does not mean a romantic connection. All right. Very often we will meet somebody and fall instantly in love. We feel an absolute knowing that we know this person, that we know them inside out. We finish each other's sentences. There's an immense chemistry. There's an immense passion. And we go, this is the one for me. Very rarely does it work out. Okay, they are a soulmate, but they're not meant to be with you. They're meant to support you. Okay, karma. Indigo asked about karma. I haven't answered that. Let me just see what's saying here. I started breaking down my name by the harmonic tone. There's another one, harmonic tones. They're very, very accurate as well, okay, to get the specific time dimensions, frequencies. There's so many different I call them roads home, okay? If you imagine that getting home, this is us getting back to spirit, this is us getting back to source. And it's a big, big mountain, and we've all got to trek up our mountain. We're in our own vehicles, we're on our own paths, and there are multiple paths that all go home. So what we want to do is say, let's find the path that works for me, and this feels right, and this is the vehicle that works for me, and this is what I'm in. But if my vehicle breaks down and doesn't work for me anymore, I can get into a different vehicle. I can even get into a different path. Okay, so I've done a little bit of studying over my years of all sorts of things. I'm an expert in none of them. I've just wanted to know the basics. So I've done like a 3 month course on astrology and numerology and colour and crystals and energy and vibration and all sorts of other stuff. So I've got an all-round kind of basic information, but I am not, my skill, my expertise is in energy healing and hypnotherapy. So I stick to what I know, but when I teach classes, I teach as much of all the different things as I can. And then, you know, for most people, a little bit is enough, you know, right? Like, so crystals, I'm always surrounded by crystals all the time. I work with crystals all the time. This is my angel crystal, which is a smoky quartz crystal. Isn't she beautiful? Beautiful. I work with her all the time. So crystals, yeah, know quite a bit about crystals, but an expert in none. Okay. Colin's saying I'm an 11 too. Okay, yeah. And that isn't a coincidence. The cusp of revolution. I bet I did this to myself. I'm a smidge stubborn. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with being stubborn. Stubborn can get us a lot, you know, determination and get us forward, can't it? An 11. The only numbers you don't reduce is 11 and 22 and 33. 33s are very rare, very rare. But 11s and 22s, these are the master numbers. I don't know enough about it, but again, you can Google master numbers, find out a bit more, because Colleen, you're an 11, you're a master number. Okay, right, my cold's starting to get quite bad. You're a 9 healer. Okay, all right. Let me just answer Indigo's question that she asked about karma. And I think I'm going to have to wrap it up because it's cold. My tablets have worn off by the sound of it. Okay, so, gosh, sounds like Kermit, don't I? This is one of the problems with me. You know, I feel okay in my energy, but it's very difficult for me to work as a hypnotherapist when I'm coughing and spluttering and sneezing. Almost impossible. Blue, would it be good to hypno ourselves? Absolutely. If you, on my channel, I've got playlists, okay, and there is some free hypnosis on there that my hypnosis that I've put up. You can listen to those as self-hypnosis. So you're listening to me, but you're hypnotizing yourself. You know, I'm not there to hold your hand. I wouldn't suggest you do it to try and deal with any deep trauma. You know, if you know there's some deeply painful stuff that needs to be released, I would say work with me, all right, on a one-to-one, because I can hold that space for you safely. But yeah, if you're just looking to release, relax, chill out, meditate, get into a good place, build confidence, build your happiness, absolutely. Listen to self-hypnosis. I've got loads for sale on my website. They're only £10. It's about $13. But there's a couple of free ones as well, all right? So on my YouTube channel, okay? Your mum's a 33. Ooh, okay. All right, she's going to be a very powerful being, very spiritually conscious. Okay, karma, let's just talk karma then, and then we'll wrap it up. Unless you've got any other burning questions. But I think this has gone quite well. Should we do it again? Should we do it again? Perhaps once every 2 weeks or something? Let me know. Put it in the comments if you want me to do it again. And so, where was I? Karma, right. So karma, yes, they do exist, the lords of karma. And this is about the sum total of our experiences and it balancing. Now, people tend to think of karma as a kind of punishment. It's not. It's about evolving, evolution, okay? We make mistakes that hurt ourselves and sometimes hurt others, not because we're doing it deliberately. We're doing it because we don't know. And once we've learned that, we don't make that mistake again. But sometimes we don't really get it. We go into that space, well, it wasn't my fault. You know, think about a typical a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, teenager, right? We grow into an awareness to be able to take responsibility for our mistakes. And once we can do that, then we make less of them. We think more about the consequences. We're aware not just of the impact on ourselves and our own body, but the impact on others. And then think of it wider, like the ripples in the pond, the impact on the community, the impact on the country, the impact on the planet, the impact on the universe. We start to take responsibility for everything we do and the impact on everything. Now, karma is all about helping us to do that. And so one of the ways will be, for example, I've shouted at you and I don't care. Then somebody shouts at me and I go, oh, I didn't like that at all. Now I learn shouting's not nice because I've just experienced it. All right. So that was balanced up. That was karma. Okay. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't to get me back. It was to say, do you realize the impact of this? Well, you clearly don't. So here it is. Bang. And you go, oh, and then you go, right. Okay, but karma also works the other way. Okay, what we give out, we get back. So when we give out love and support and care, we get it back. Now, a lot of us may have an issue with that and go, well, I haven't seen it. Okay, yes, please do. Please do. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome to always send me healing. Never need my permission for that, but thank you for asking. That was very respectful. Right, yeah, sometimes we need to believe that it will come back to us, okay? It won't necessarily come back in this lifetime. And it's the same when we see people who we judge to be very evil or very bad and seem to be getting away with it. I trust in universal justice, in universal karma. All right, that person will have their comeuppance at some point, not as a punishment, but for them to understand what they're doing. Hi, May. So, we can feel suffering. I know in my lifetime I've given out an immense amount of help and healing and love to people. I haven't always had that back, but I trust that I will, hopefully by the end of this lifetime. But if I don't, I'll have it in the next one, or I'll have it when I go home upstairs. It's not saying I give to receive. Where is it? Where's my present? I want it now. It's saying I give because I choose to give. And this is kind of where we come into more of the Hindu type energy, type beliefs about we do good in this lifetime to prepare our prana, prepare our heaven. Sometimes we get it back in this lifetime, but sometimes it will be subsequent lifetimes. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope that helps you to understand what karma is about. One of the things that does happen with karma, the more spiritually conscious you become, the more instant karma is. And I have this all of the time. I am quite spiritually conscious, as you know. And if I do something wrong, it comes back at me literally within minutes. And it's like, there's no messing about. I'm not paying it back in 10 years. I'm paying it back now. So it's instant, okay? And it's understanding everything we give out. When we're complaining about somebody, know that there'll be somebody complaining about you. When we are moaning about somebody, when we are bitching about somebody, know that there's somebody bitching about you. You don't want that coming back at you. Don't give it out. Okay, everything comes back that we give out, everything. Now, the belief is, and I've checked this upstairs and they've confirmed this, that when we give out positivity, it comes back threefold. And positivity will cancel out negativity. So if I do think an unkind word, because I'm human, and sometimes I will go, oh, for God's sake, and then I'll go, cancel, delete. Cancel, delete, and then I replace it with something kind, something pleasant, something supportive, okay? And a positive thought will cancel out to the power of 3 a negative thought, okay? So it's about saying, look, I choose to walk my talk. I choose to live this life, not just on the spiritual time when I am meditating, but how do I treat my neighbours? How do I treat my children? How do I treat my colleagues? Do I treat people with respect and kindness and care? Am I tolerant or am I judgmental? Am I putting people down? Because all of that will come back on you, okay? And it's not nice. So treat others as you would be treated. You know, he made a lot of sense, as did Buddha, as did Muhammad, as did all of these masters who came to teach us. And it doesn't matter what religion they're associated with. Let go of the religion side, because that's all dogma, but look at actually what they were saying, their teaching. Because actually, whether it's the Hindu, I can't remember their teacher, but or Muhammad or Jesus or Buddha, they're actually all saying the same thing. It's love, it's forgiveness, it's non-judgment, it's making sure that you are at peace within yourself, and it's giving out that peace to others. They're all saying the same thing, and that God is everywhere, everywhere, in you, in others. See the light in somebody else and see it in yourself. Okay, never forget about you. All right. So I'm going to leave it there, guys, and I will set up another one of these probably in a couple of weeks' time. Let me know if you would like more of these kind of. It was supposed to be therapy, as in, psychotherapy, counselling type therapy, but it's ended up being spiritual therapy, which is fine. I love teaching spiritual stuff. Okay, and anything I've said, if it doesn't resonate for you, that's absolutely fine. Okay, take the bits that resonate for you, leave the bits that don't. Okay. All right, my darlings, I will leave you there. Lots of love. Namaste. Blessings. Take care. Bye.